Tired of your car insurance rate going up, even with a clean driving record? You're not alone. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today. That's JERRY.ai/LIBSYN.
Welcome back to the Center in the City podcast, a space to pause, breathe, and come back to yourself, even in the middle of a full and busy life. I'm your host, Wade Brill, and in each episode, we explore mindfulness for real life, simple practices, reflections, tools to help you feel grounded, present, and connected to what matters most to you. So let's settle in and let's get centered. Welcome back to the Center in the City podcast. I'm your host, Wade Brill, and I am so glad you are here. On today's solo episode, we're diving deep into the exploration of joy, how we can express our joy, and how we can navigate those feelings that can steal our joy, those feelings like envy and jealousy. I recently just taught a class at UCLA Mindful. We explored this exact same theme through the lens of mindfulness. And today we're going to tap into that, but we're also going to explore it a little bit more deeply. You'll leave this episode with insight of when you're noticing those feelings of jealousy and envy creeping up, coming in to steal your joy like the Grinch of Christmas, and instead how you can respond differently. Learn how to use comparisons as a way to inspire instead of a way to feel that lack, and how you can tap more into your joy and this feeling of abundance that is out there for all of us. And hint, there's enough for all of us. Wherever you are listening to this episode, while on a walk, cooking in the kitchen, commuting, I welcome you to settle in and let's get centered. Have you ever had that experience where you've opened up Instagram, like, oh, I'm just gonna do a little scrolling right now, feeling completely fine, maybe even feeling great. And then 5 minutes start to go by and you start to suddenly spiral out feeling, oh my God, I'm behind in my career. I can't believe she just got that dream job that's moving her to Europe. Or, oh my God, they got engaged, or they had this beautiful wedding. I'm behind in my relationship, or I don't even have a relationship. Or maybe you notice somebody's losing weight or consistently going to the gym and taking those shots of showing how their body's changed and what it looks like to be consistent. And you're starting to feel like, oh my God, why can't I do that? Why am I behind in my health goals? Or maybe somebody just announced that they're having a baby and you're feeling, oh my God, I'm so behind in my family planning. When's that going to happen to me? Or they just bought a house or their second home and God, I can't even afford my first home. That's been my dream. Like I must be behind. And in those moments where you're noticing your mind spiraling out, where you're noticing yourself comparing, just to take a moment to pause and recognize like nothing has changed in your life. From the 5 minutes prior where you were feeling good to those 5 minutes later where you're spiraling out, nothing has changed besides your perspective. And when you've maybe had a friend call you to tell them the good news that you got this promotion or that you're pregnant or that you got engaged, I'm curious if you were able to slow that moment down and notice, have you been genuinely happy for this person? Like this is your best friend. Of course you want the best for them. And simultaneously, there's maybe an internal ping of jealousy or envy or comparison that starts to creep up. Maybe something that says, wait, why couldn't this be happening to me right now? I deserve this. What did I do wrong to not have this in my life? What path or right or left turn should I have taken? And I just want to normalize that this internal voice of jealousy and envy and comparison is so human. You could be the most loving, nice, kind, generous person in the world, and you still will have experienced moments of jealousy and envy. And from a psychological perspective, our human brains are trained to think in these ways of comparison, right? Our brains are constantly scanning our environment, looking for safety, looking for belonging. And in that ability to discern, do I belong? Am I part of this group? It's very human to recognize, where do I fall in this quote unquote status? And as civilization has evolved, our communities, our networks have expanded. So instead of it being our local tribes and communities that we were living in and towns, it has now expanded to the whole internet. So maybe instead of comparing yourselves to your neighbors or your 100 classmates that you went to high school with and everybody stayed in the same neighborhood and town, it is now expanded to thousands upon thousands of people that we are seeing these highlight reels in social media. And I feel like the summertime is also this like heightened time where FOMO is at its best, where people are posting all sorts of amazing trips and experiences that the comparison game can get really loud. Now, when we start comparing other people's lives to our lives, oh, they have that body, or they have that wardrobe, or they have that house, or that job, or that relationship, or that car, when we start putting our attention on what they have and what we don't, and then what that means for us, like we're not good enough or we've fallen behind, it starts to put all of the focus on the other person, right? The energy that you're putting out there and the energy that you're spiraling in is all about what's going on in that person's life, what they have, what's going right for them, how lucky they are. And then the story falls on how you don't have enough, why not you, why am I behind? And when the energy is focused on the other person or the other family, it starts to suck your energy out, because your energy is being drained by focusing on somebody else's life and by focusing on what you don't have. And that conversation of what's lacking in your life is one of the biggest drainers in life. It starts to suck creativity and gratitude and presence and confidence and motivation from all areas of your life. It kind of becomes a leech. It just sits in you and sucks your blood out. And then you can get trapped. I see it all of the time in this really unhelpful thought loop of, I'll be happy when I get that promotion. I'll be happy when I get engaged. I'll be happy when I have that baby. I'll be happy when I make that move. And this idea of joy and happiness and the life that I want to live and living in my values becomes pushed out, that you need that thing in order to make you happy, that the outcome of that thing is going to solve all of your life's problems, or it's going to make you feel amazing to get that purse that you're jealous somebody just bought, or that car, or that home. When you let life ride on those outcomes, you start to become a victim to life, because you're saying, I need to have these things in order to be content, in order to be happy, in order to feel joy in my life. But if I don't have those things, then I can't feel the joy. I can't feel the contentment. I can't feel the happiness. So welcome just to pause here, and let's slow this down a little bit more so this can become really tangible in your life. And I welcome you to bring to mind the most recent time where you felt an inner ping of jealousy or envy, or got caught in the comparison game. Maybe a friend just told you they booked this amazing vacation, or they just went on this date with this person they found and they're like already so in love. Maybe a coworker or friend just told you they got a huge bonus at work. Just trust whatever instant comes to mind, and maybe there are many, and that's great to recognize. Just pick one and slow it down and notice, what does it feel like from a sensation perspective to feel those instances of jealousy, of envy, of comparison that creep up. For me, I think about this example when a friend told me they bought this new home and it overlooked the water and it was beautiful and like hit so many of these dream boxes. And of course, when I slow this down, I'm so happy for them because this is what they wanted in their life. And I would be so lying through my teeth if I didn't say, yeah, there's some feelings of jealousy. And for me, it's like this ping through my heart center, like up into my throat, and it feels tight, and I can feel a constricting energy, kind of a going in and tightening and getting narrow feeling. Maybe for you, you notice there's like tension in your forehead, or maybe you feel a headache coming on, or your jaw tightens, or your stomach cramps up. I want you to know you are not a bad human or a bad friend for feeling jealous or for feeling envious or for comparing. Again, this is so human, and both things can be true. You can be happy for them, and you can also feel that little tingle of why not me? So now I want us to take this a step further, because once we've been able to name and notice the emotions and the sensations of jealousy and envy and comparison, and you might notice that all three of those have even a different flavor and shade. That's great. If you notice they all feel too similar, that's also great. When you start to notice these sensations come up, I want you to also name, what's the story behind it? Right? What's the story? What are the thoughts that your mind is saying? Is it saying, I'm not good enough? Why is that not happening to me? Or, wow, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not hardworking enough, or why don't I get this in my life? I deserve this. Like, what is the dialogue you hear? And this in my coaching is where I go really deep with my clients to understand the belief patterns that might be showing up, where there might be feelings of not enoughness or lack of self-trust or feelings of scarcity that might be embedded from other stories. But what is then really helpful for all of us to do here, once we've been able to name the emotions and name the sensations and name the thoughts, is to then ask ourselves, okay, jealousy is showing up here. Or I'm like, oh, I'm feeling this comparison game with my best friend. Like, why is this happening? I want to be so happy for them right now. Why am I feeling competitive? Like, this doesn't feel good. So this is a magical place to recognize where you can easily get trapped. You can choose this path to get spiraled into the I'm not enough story, into the lack of abundance, into the scarcity mindset. Or you can use this unpleasant emotion of jealousy, of envy, of comparison to actually be your biggest teacher and motivator. So instead of getting, again, wrapped up, or maybe you notice like when you start to get competitive, you start to maybe trash talk your friend a little bit or justify X, Y, and Z. And there's kind of this like pushing away, or I don't know, this uncomfortable feeling might show up. Welcome you to sit in the discomfort, sit in the, ooh, this doesn't feel good. And then this is where we get to use our mindfulness muscles. We get to notice that this doesn't feel good, and we get to get curious about it. We get to sit there long enough and say, okay, jealousy, what are you here to teach me? What am I actually jealous of? Am I jealous of their financial flexibility? Am I jealous of their ease, their freedom? Am I jealous of the relationship, of the adventure? What is it that is pinging me to feel this sense of envy or jealousy? These moments, again, are our biggest teachers, because sometimes we think wow, I'm really jealous of their success. But what's really happening underneath that unpleasant feeling is that we're grieving something we long for. That jealousy, that envy, that comparison game is actually pointing to something that our heart truly desires. So, when I used that example earlier that a friend had just bought this beautiful home on the lake and she sent me photos, sent me the listing for it. And I got to see how big and spacious and modern it was. And they don't have to hardly do any work to it. It was like, of course, I was so happy for them because they really had been consistent about trying to find this place. And there was this feeling of jealousy of like, oh my God, why can't I have that in my life? I want that. And instead of it being like, why can't I have that? Why, like, what's wrong with me, or what choices, or where am I not good enough or financially wealthy enough to make that choice? I paused, I noticed those feelings of tension in my body. And I later, so it wasn't on the phone, I didn't do this live while I was talking to my friend. It was like lingering for kind of like the next few days, and even like talking to my husband about it. I'd be like, I'm noticing some feelings of kind of jealousy coming up here, and naming it and recognizing it and recognizing the story I was telling myself. And then I paused and I was like, okay, wait, I can either sit in this place of not enoughness that again is not helping me or anybody else, or I can say, what is this teaching me? What is this jealousy teaching me? What is this comparison teaching me? And what I actually realized is that this comparison was saying, I should want this big dream house. I should want this quote unquote American dream. But that's actually not what I want. So even though I'm so happy for these friends and I'm so happy for this path that they're creating, and the path that they're creating looks really beautiful from the outside and checks a lot of those boxes of what a dream home could look like, I realized that is actually not my truth. And what this feeling of jealousy is actually telling me is that I want a home on the water. And that was an insight that really helped me realize the deeper core of the message here was like, I care about being by the water. I don't want that home. I don't want that life that they're choosing. But the jealousy was telling me, oh, I'm wanting that kind of lifestyle where I could live right on the ocean, right on the water. Because for me, that supports this vision I have for my life, to be by the ocean, to have that sense of nature and spiritual connection and sense of calm, to be able to connect with the water more easily. And so this curious, mindful inquiry helped me take my attention off of them, right? Like their life, their decision. And it helped teach me, this jealousy helped teach me actually, what are my values? What do I care about? What do I want to put my attention and energy and focus in on my life to create? So when we name that longing, when we can put some words to that experience, right? Instead of, I wish I had her life, to really say, what does this and what does her life represent to me, right? What does her finding love or her starting a family represent to me? And again, that brings the power back into your own hands. And that supports you being able to choose enoughness in your life instead of, what am I missing, or what's lacking in my life, or where am I behind, or where am I not enough? Now, one of the things we talked about in my UCLA mindful class the other week around joy is that joy is a type of emotion that is always out there. Joy is pure abundance. Joy is walking down the street and hearing children laughing at the park. Joy is watching a hummingbird getting food out of a feeder or going to a flower. Joy is watching two people sitting on a park bench or at a cafe having conversation with each other, not looking at their phones, like making eye contact. Joy is having a lick of a summer ice cream cone while walking down the street or a really delicious cup of coffee. And the cool thing about joy is that we ourselves don't have to be having that ice cream in our hand or that deep, rich conversation or that job promotion. We can tap into the joy that is available right there. So it doesn't have to be directly happening to us to feel it. So even though envy and jealousy and comparison can come up and bubble up and want to take us out of feeling the joy for the other person, I want to remind us that joy is something we can come back to. We can come back to that felt sense of just watching that person having that ice cream cone and knowing what that's like from an experience, that shared human experience of how satisfying and fun and freeing and playful and childlike it is. And that we too can feel those feelings. And that it's okay if envy and jealousy and comparability rise in those moments. Again, we can use them as teachers just like we practiced. And we can come back to this idea of sympathetic joy, like there is enough joy in this world that we can tap into it. That's why in the Centered Walks collection, I have specifically a joy walk, because sometimes when we're having shitty days or our energy is feeling low, it can be such a helpful reminder to find joy around us, to tap into that joy of others and that we can borrow their joy. And that it's not about us taking joy from them, even strangers. It's that there's enough joy to go around and that it's shareable. And it's a really beautiful concept to think of, that we can share our joy, and that the more joy we're creating in this world, what could that do? Like, how could that ripple and affect the way we connect with one another, the way our world works? Returning to joy again and again is always a choice that you have. And it's a way that you can get out of the spirals, get out of the unhelpful conversations that you tell yourself. So you get to practice noting, like, I'm comparing, right? I'm comparing myself, or I'm in a place of jealousy right now, or this is envy showing up in my body. Notice it. Notice it without shame. Notice it without self-judgment, just discerning, noticing, like it's sunny out today, or right? There's comparison. Find the joy when the mind starts to get an I'm not enough, or this is not enough, or my life is not enough. Again, that's the lens in which you are seeing life. That's the way that you're choosing to create a perspective on the scenario, on the situation. So you can choose that, but it's not going to be very helpful. So instead, maybe you want to say, what do I already have? Or practice the gratitude game. What am I most grateful for? What is working well in my life? What do I have enough of? Where is there so much joy and abundance? So yes, I currently don't live by the ocean, but can I bring my attention back to, I have a roof over my head. I am so grateful for my house and my garden and our view of the water, to be near the water, be able to have a home that we can rent out and use for travel and be global citizens. And I always like to emphasize that none of this stuff is like playing into the fake positivity bullshit world, because both things can be true. There can be grief that you don't have something that you really want. Maybe it's that relationship or that family. And the most empowering thing we can do for ourselves is not fight with our reality. It's not wish or could have or should have or would have reality, but instead just note what reality is present and then allow it to empower us to move forward in the direction that we want to be moving in. So we can't let the grief hold us back or that story of I'm not good enough hold us back. We get it to be teachers about what's important to us, how we can actually make more value-based decisions in our life and use that as fuel to choose what's joyful in our life. Where do we actually want to be putting our focus and attention? And let that be the vibration, the energy that we're entering life with and through instead of the lack. And believe me, take it from somebody who has a very strong, negative, critical mind. It has taken me years upon years and is still something I am constantly working on, to not fall back into those stories of lack, but instead to choose the abundance of what is already here and live through that. The opposite of comparison isn't pretending you'll never feel jealous, right? Because that's so not human. But instead, it's trusting that somebody else's life doesn't diminish the possibility of your own. Right? Just because they've become an influencer and you've wanted to become an influencer, or just because they had this dream wedding in a place that you wanted to get married in, or just because they bought this home on the water, doesn't mean it is not then possible for you, right? It doesn't mean that there's just one home on the water, or it doesn't mean that there's just that one wedding venue, or it doesn't mean that it's just that one perfect relationship, quote unquote, because there's no such thing as perfect. But may we remind ourselves that there's an abundance in that when people are doing something in life where there's feelings of jealousy and envy and comparison, we can use that as fuel, as insight to actually remind ourselves, oh yeah, this is what I care about. And there's enough. They can have this dream and I can also have this dream. And may I also thank this person for showing me what I value, what I care about. And one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about having people take mindful moments for themselves, take moments to pause, to connect, to listen inwards, is because when you are listening inwards, you're truly living in alignment to your values, to your own intuition, not based on other people's timelines, not based on what other people are doing. And when we constantly look outside at our social circles or Instagram or what's happening in the world, we're told stories of what life should look like. And that can get very trapping, and that can get very muddled. And that can take us away from connecting to our truth. So even though it's so human to scan your environment, to want to belong, to want to be in the same status or league as your friends, or to be in the same timeline as your friends, remind yourself that you are on your own timeline. You are living your own unique life, and that it will all unfold as it's supposed to. So if you want more joy in your life, remind yourself it is not found by winning the comparison game, by trying to one-up your friends or to compete with them. Instead, it's found in the moments you stop playing that game. It's found in the moments that you actually just put your focus and energy on what you want to be cultivating in your life. And to know that joy is something that you can always choose and you can always live. And if you want some support, some easy, tangible ways to connect to joy more, I welcome you to download Centered Walks and listen to the joy walk a few times a week, and you will start to notice that that trains your mind, it trains your focus to look for the joy in life, which will definitely shift your energy and shift your attention. But you'll start to call and cultivate more of that energy in your life, more of that mindset in the way that you interact with your relationships, your career, your health. And if you're wanting to dig deeper into this, I have a few coaching spots open for the summer months. So you can check out my connection call link in the show notes if that's something you want to explore. Thank you for being here as always. I'm so curious to hear as this episode comes to a close, what is coming alive for you? What are some of your biggest takeaways? What are you most excited to practice and integrate in your life? Reach out to me on Instagram at OneWade and share with me. I love hearing from all of you of how you're listening and using the Centered in the City podcast in your life. And until next time, stay centered.